Welcome back. We are analyzing the situation in the opposition in Kenya, 7 months ahead of the general election, as political alignments and realignments begin to take shape. That is, of course, also ahead of Wednesday's meeting of the joint opposition at the Bomas of Kenya to decide, among other things, the way forward in terms of the electoral laws that today have been signed into law by President Uhuru Kenyatta, as well as their position in terms of what is their political direction. Let's come to that in the next 5 minutes or so before we wind up. Let me begin with you, Godfrey. What do you think you need as a joint opposition to beat Jubilee?
Well, what we need is going to be demonstrated on Wednesday. And as I said earlier, it is unity of the opposition. When my party leader started this talk about a super alliance, I think many people never took it seriously. But gradually, you've been seeing the momentum build. And as Norman has said, there has been a lot of behind-the-scene negotiations and talks. So the product of all that is going to be visualized on Wednesday, when we'll have virtually the entire opposition meeting. And that is a historic meeting. I now call upon all aspirants on ANC and other parties within the opposition to attend that meeting, because it's going to be a historic meeting. It's going to give us the next steps as far as the opposition unity is concerned. You heard Honorable Orengo talking about aspects of structures of the coalition and that. We as a party, we are meeting tomorrow, the National Executive Committee, to make some recommendations on way forward as far as the Super Alliance
So you
is
talk
concerned.
about unity. Norman, is a lack of unity the reason why you still don't have a political direction, so to speak? You don't have a presidential candidate 7 months to the election. Is that a good thing, or is it a disadvantage for you?
You know, then when you say a lack of political direction, I really don't get you. Because the question is, are we where we should be? And the answer is yes, we are where we want to be.
All right.
The question is, are we headed where we need to be? And the answer is yes, we are on our way there. The question of choosing an opposition presidential candidate, it's a strategic question within the coalition, pegged on a strategic timing of when this announcement needs to be done. And it takes into consideration a number of factors in terms of what needs to be done from the time a candidate is unveiled up to the election day. There have been intense negotiations and discussions for the last 2 months. And I told you here, I promised you here, that the question of choosing the opposition presidential candidate is perhaps the easiest question within the opposition ranks. And I want to reiterate it again, that when we are done with the voter registration exercise, we will then, because we don't want to start talking about unveiling a presidential candidate before we close and know what kind of voter register we are dealing with. Once that is done, we will then be able to unveil our candidate to the country with,
In 20 seconds
with a strategic timing of 5 months to the election. If you go back in history, in 2002, Kibaki was unveiled how many months to the election? It was not 10 months to the election.
Fair enough.
Two, an incumbent president is always defending his seat, is always known as the candidate. So it is too simplistic for anyone to boast that in our camp we already have a presidential candidate. You have an incumbent.
All right, Ngunjiri, what do you say to that? We have 3 minutes only to conclude this.
I think I'll just re-emphasize the point I made when we began this interview, that there's nothing new that this new coalition that is coming up on Wednesday is coming with. They don't have any new people who are not running against Uhuru in 2017 that they're bringing together. In fact, they have fewer people. Some of the people who are running against Uhuru in 2013 have now gone into his side. So when we look at Musalia Mudavadi, when we look at Raila Odinga, when we look at Kalonzo Musyoka, when we look at Wetangula, we're looking at the same group that went against Uhuru in 2013 and lost. So as Jubilee, we are not concerned about what they actually do on Wednesday. Our only emphasis is that Kenya needs peace. We also want the opposition to remember that they are not the only Kenyans. They have this theme of talking as Kenyans have said.
Mangunjiri, are there jitters in the Jubilee ranks about not knowing who
Let me tell you,
presidential
the only
candidate will
jitters
be?
we have in Jubilee is about the fact that these guys want to take our country back to 2007, that these guys are so sure they're going to lose the next election, they're trying to prepare themselves to negotiate Nusu Mkate. And they keep talking about the past. They talked about IPPG.
That's bullshit.
They keep talking about
Norman,
for them, that's...
you can't use that language here.
Yeah, I mean,
can give you like 30
you can't,
days to respond to that.
you can't expect him to say anything different because they do not understand courtesy. They do not understand how countries are run. They need to realize that Kenya has moved forward. This is not 2007.
All right.
This is not
1997.
1997.
Let's leave it there. Norman, what do you say to that fact which has been reported by other political analysts that you are preparing for power sharing kind of deal?
I would say it's pure balderdash. There's nothing credible actually to respond to in that case. He's talking about 2007. 2007 did not happen out of the blues. It happened because of a well-documented election theft. And it is them who want to take the country back to 2007 by preparing machineries to rig the election.
Godfrey, no one says it. The issue of choosing a presidential candidate is very easy. He promised that here several shows ago, but that was without the entry of Musalia Mudavadi. How easy does it become, or harder?
Well, you know, Ben, we are working on a formidable coalition. And from my understanding of our coalition building process, there are 5 key elements. The first element is the policy of the coalition.
Right.
The second element is the procedure towards the establishment and the sustenance of that coalition. The third is the structures for that coalition.
Right.
And the fourth is the documents around which that coalition is governed. And then the last one is sharing of positions. So when Jubilee want to force us into a corner that opposition unity is all about sharing position, that is not true. That is their propaganda.
Thank you.
We are focused towards creating a strong, sustainable coalition, not like Jubilee that is based on 2 hands.
It's a very big, wide discussion that we cannot, finish in one sitting. Many thanks. Norman Magaya, CEO of the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy, Godfrey Otsotsi, the Secretary General of the Amani National Congress, and Gunjeri Wambugu, political analyst and Jubilee strategist. Many thanks for joining us on the show. That's where we leave it tonight. Be sure to join us every Monday night from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. as we discuss the big political stories of the day in the run-up to the 2017 general election. We are covering this big meeting of the joint opposition for you in the way only we can. Stick with us here on KTN News. We shall be covering that for you very well. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from Nairobi.